Architectural Builder Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
Locks and stuff because I'm doing some on my own training to become a locksmith, and I'm in North Carolina, and so I'm trying. They don't have a lot to choose from around here, and I work for a company called CBRE Triad. We do facility maintenance for office buildings and shopping centers. And so I do all their keying and stuff. So, but I still struggle with Sargent and Corbin's, and I'm always trying to reach out. And I saw some of your stuff when you did the Corbin L4 stuff to see if you had any good outlets for better information to maybe make it smoother for me.
Yeah. So I know more about Corbin than I do Sargent, but only because I did an extreme deep dive into Corbin or PF Corbin's master ring cylinder a few years ago. And so L4 is just the keyway, is what L4 is. Okay.
Right.
So when you talk about Corbin, you know, in the modern day, it's Corbin Russwin. If you go back in time, it was PF Corbin in the 19th century. And it was Russell and Irwin. Well, long story short, Corbin and Russwin ended up merging together. And in fact, those factories were in the same building in New England back many decades ago. And it was all Corbin that was put into the Empire State Building when it was built originally. So Corbin's master ring cylinder, which is something that you'll never encounter, and I may have seen one in my career, and that's only because I was from a very urban area, you know, where there's going to be a lot of that stuff. Okay, good.
Right.
And the point I'm trying to make about Corbin is Corbin has the cylinder manual that without that document, it would be, for people like me, impossible to navigate the Corbin ecosystem, because not only does that 100-page document give you the history of their key systems, but breaks all of the different key systems down so that you understand what class the key that you're working in belongs to. And there's pre-System 70 and there's System 70, and there was a substantial difference between those two platforms. It's most likely everything you're doing is System 70, which is a one-step system, meaning you can have a 5 and a 6 in the same, you'll have depths probably 0 through 6 or something like that, rather than 0 through 10 or 1 through 10 in Corbin. So you're probably seeing all single-step systems, but without that manual, I mean, I would, unless you're doing the most basic of key service on Corbin Russwin cylinders, there'd be no way to survive. No way.
Well, that's the thing. One of our buildings, actually, it's where our main office is. It's actually the L4 Corbin. And then in that same park, we got 5 buildings in just that one area. One's Sargent, one's Corbin, the other ones are Schlage, with different Schlage keyways. So that's been interesting. But the Corbin, I have struggled to, when I'm having to do a rekey, and I finally muddle through, but I look back, I was like, oh, how did I just do that? Because I've had to kind of mix up the pins to make it work with my master key for the building. And because what has happened through the years, no one had ever took control of the bidding list, and so there is not one right now. And that's the downfall of this building. I mean, it would be a little simpler if I had that way I wouldn't have to muddle through as much. But I was struggling with that multi-step process, or the multi-steps of like, okay, yeah, is Corbin the single step versus a 2-step progression in the Schlage and stuff like that. And so I finally got me it's a used one, but I got me a Blitz. Love that thing, and I've been trying to make the keys, but I had to make sure that I used the proper cutting wheel, because those are a little different than the normal cutting wheel for a couple of the others, and then Sargent's a different cutting wheel. So I've got all those now, and I'm, like I said, thank God I'm only having to do it in short spells. That way I can understand what I'm working with.
So absolutely, a blitz and a used one, awesome. That's perfect. And with all those code cards, if you had to buy them, they're $25 or $35. But the wealth of knowledge on a HPC code card is everything you need. It gives you spacings, it gives you depths, and when you look at the possible depths, you can tell immediately if it's single step or two step, because there's not going to be any 9 cuts in a single step system. So, at least not to my knowledge. Now, when it comes to your bidding list, not having that is a major Achilles heel problem. And my opinion is every time that you encounter a cylinder that you're servicing, start building your own bidding list.
Oh yeah, no, I do that because that way I know, like I put I know there's papers out there for everybody, but with me being, math is my downfall, and then all of a sudden here I am wanting to jump into locksmithing, which is nothing but math, is like trying to get over my struggle of it, but I enjoy the mechanical functions of locks and keys and hardware and all that other stuff because, I mean, that's what I'm good at is being mechanically inclined. And so I made my own worksheet. That way I put my suite number, which building it is, which keyway it is, and then I put my master number on there. I put whatever number I'm putting for that tenant, and then I build it, and then I do my math, and then bam, bam, bam. But like I said, the Corbin, I just seem like I've struggled with every time I do a rekey, and getting the, I mean, it's been really either too sloppy or it's too tight. So I don't know if some of my cylinders are just getting that worn out that I need to replace them. But I've been using some of the GMS cores in the L4 keyway, and I've heard good and bads about those.
Are you doing interchangeable core or are you doing conventional core?
It's the conventional core where you pop the handle off. But I do some of the interchangeable cores with the other brands of locks and stuff, especially Schlage. I have a lot of Schlage IC cores. I very infrequent do Best or Arrow or any of that stuff because that's just not hardly any of my buildings have this. But most of them are the conventional. So I've been using the GMS generic cores, but all the other times I've used them, they've been great. But for whatever reason, I've heard the 50-50 about the Corbin keyways on the GMS being like they're too sloppy or they're just too tight.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is whenever you leave the ecosystem of a manufacturer, you know, if you're going to use a lab universal pin kit and you're going to use knockoff cylinders, and GMS and Kaba, Ilco, you know, they're all great. They just are. But at the end of the day, unless you're using the original, you're going to contend with needing to figure out the personality of what you're dealing with and find a workaround. The upside of working with generic is the cost is substantially less. The downside is that you pull your hair out because the damn thing just don't work right. It works today, but it don't tomorrow. The other downside of the downside of the original, the OEM stuff, is the cost. Obviously, you're buying original material. I mean, if you're going to pin Corbin, if I was going to insist on one thing, it would be the original pin kit, because the chamfer around the Corbin Russwin pin, the tumbler is the proper term, is specific to that. So I would be using an original pin kit, but it also is a fortune. When I've keyed Corbin Russwin material, I mean, I have the PK, whatever it is, the part number for the full pin kit. And I'm just not going to do it because I'm not charging $50 a cylinder to come up with some cockamamie way to make this work, because I'm compromising security while I'm doing so. Right.
Okay. So now I've got also the multi-purpose. My key gauge is a Corbin Russwin key gauge, but it has so many different things on there. I was fighting, like, trying to remember which side is, like, System X and System Z and all this other stuff. So I've been trying to make, like, a etching on that side, like, use this gauge only on this side.
Sure. So when you get into the Corbin Russwin manual, and I have your email, I'm going to reply with a link to it so you'll be able to see it later.
Okay.
I absolutely suggest that you have that thing on your iPad or whatever, and give it a good 15 minutes a night before, at bedtime, and you are going to remember when Christmas was still a lot of fun when you were a teenager, not when you were 5 or 10, and not when you're an adult. It was still pretty cool. You're going to feel like this about this manual because it's the governing document. It's literally going to liberate you from these things that there's something missing, but you can't define what's missing.
I gotcha.
It's literally that.
Okay.
I have read that document cover to cover twice, and I have referred to it countless times over the years. Now, the document's probably 2 decades out of date, but the only thing that it doesn't have in it really are going to be the most up-to-date high-security stuff. It's not going to have whatever, key system, pyramid. The pyramid's not going to be in it.
Right.
That kind of stuff. So it's not going to prove to be a handicap that I think it was published last in 2020. Pardon me, 2002 is what I meant to say. Because you're dealing with garden variety Corbin Russwin. But when you see the different key classes, and especially you're dealing with all System 70,
right.
It's, you're gonna say it's the most valuable free document that you've ever seen, because it truly is. Okay. And the other thing is, I've had reasonable success calling Corbin's key department. I found when I was researching Master Ring that the people that I spoke to didn't really possess a working knowledge of it. And I found my answers through contacts through ALOA, ALOA. And if you're serious about locksmithing being a large part of how you make a living, I couldn't more strongly urge, not necessarily to be a member, but at least to participate in the classes that are offered at least annually at the convention, because there is no other way that you're going to be able to tap the shoulder of giants, absolute rock stars in the locksmithing industry. You are going to brush shoulder. You're going to eat lunch with these people. And if you really, really, really need the help, that is the best way. And what's interesting, as evidenced in this telephone call, everyone helps everyone else. It's just the way it is. Everybody helps everyone. Whether it be
this past year was in Florida, correct?
It was in Orlando, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Year before that, it was in Vegas. But when that gets announced, I think it's aloha.org. When that gets announced, you look at the list of the classes, and you'll decide if there's something there you should be taking a look at. And there's going to be cylinder servicing where you're literally going to be doing that stuff. And if there's something on in the curriculum that doesn't exactly match, there's 100 people there that will talk your ear off, just like I am. Right.
Okay. Because like I said, I'm doing it for the company I work for, and then as I get older, I would like to have a backup plan of, as long as my hands and my eyes hold up, this is something that I can still make good money. That's low impact on my body, and it's a good trade to stay with. Because that's the thing, the trades are dying because these younger people, very infrequent, want to get into something that's actually hands-on. I mean, there's a few out there, but most of them want to either hit the computer keys or swipe on their phone or their tablet, and that's all they want to do.
Yeah.
And so then my son, he's wanting to possibly get into it because he's in facility maintenance also. And so whatever I've learned, I'd like to pass on to him. And like I said, all my stuff is all used equipment, but it's somewhere to start. That way I can get really good at it, and then I can actually buy some nice equipment. But so far, I've been busting out a bunch of different styles and brands, and I've learned a lot in just the last 2 years on my own. But just getting extra helping hand somewhere to be able to excel in it would be, because also I watch I try to watch it every Tuesday night, the CLK Lock Boss thing that he does on YouTube also. The guys out of Hayden, Idaho are really good. I've conversated with them a couple times and watched more of his tutorials. Like I said, I've been buzzing through a handful of the ones that you've got on there, and I've got some bookmarked to go back and watch. And it's been very informative. I mean, I appreciate how you try to break it down as simple as possible in a short period of time, and it makes a world of difference.
Well, I mean, I'm in a low CPL, but I don't spend my day doing locksmithing stuff. We're door and frame and hardware distributors, and locksmithing is a big part of what we do in the sense of it's associated.
Right.
But I'm not going to have a lot of published stuff that's going to be what you're actually looking for. So if you needed a tutorial on how to combine a Corbin Russwin large format core, I would have to make one of those. But I do understand how to do it because I've studied it, and the build-up pins are quite easy once you wrap your head around it. You've got the blitz. I say stick with used tools because you know it's going to work, meaning, I always find the reconditioned stuff is best for me. I just do. It's cheaper, and it's already had the once through, and stick with it,
Exactly.
I insist on good quality, good sharp cutters, but other than that, as long as it works, man, it's all,
And the good part is, Ilko is actually in North Carolina here. It's only
Winston.
2.5 hours from me. So I got two of them, and because I bought one from a guy out of Georgia. When it finally showed up, it looked like the carriers had played rugby with it.
Yeah.
And I sent it down there. They fixed it, calibrated it. It works great. But I lucked out and got a second one from a guy that moved down here from New Jersey. That used to he said he started the Papa Lock up there, and he worked his way down, and the franchise exploded on him, and it got really big. So he got out of it. So I bought some used equipment from him, but that actually works better than the one I had. So I've been using it on my truck. And also I got a whole library of the Reed code books.
Oh, yeah.
But the whole kicker is I don't know how to use them yet.
Yeah. I own, I think when I was studying for the mandatory exam to become a CRL, I studied all that stuff, but I don't believe you're ever going to need those, ever.
Okay.
I just don't, because you're not going to be needing to pull a bitting off of an indirect code of a padlock from 1960.
Exactly.
I just don't see it, especially when there's other ways to do that, like the code cards from HPC. And I would also suggest that you look into Framon, Framon. It's like the Blitz. It's more technical to use, but the guy Phil over there, he's second generation hardcore locksmith type. He's the smartest guy in the room. And I believe they have the an electronic version of Reed, where you can type in something and it'll return some results.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so is there a specific thing that you need to do that you need help with? And if I would assume right now the answer is no, but if you do in the future, by all means, send me an email. I mean, I'm happy to not only try to answer it, but try to answer it visually.
Like I said, I'm just trying to get through whenever I do have to do the rekeys over there at my main office building, with it being at Corbin. And if you know of good other links of good worksheets that give info to help simplify it in layman's terms sometimes, because when I start reading certain things, I have to read it 20 times for it to sink in the first time, because of the way they do it technically. And then it's like, okay, that's technical for that. I've grasped certain key points, but then it's like I cannot remember where I got them. I downloaded. There might be a stamping on there. I have to go back in my little binder that I'm building, that had worksheets. I call them worksheets, but it had the different machines of which card to use or which thing to use, and it had other numbers on there to be able to use for, I guess, the progressions and the root depths and all of that.
Well, in terms of So the document that I sent you has the bidding specifications for all the Corbin Russwin, and your L4 is just it is a very typical and common system. So there's nothing
Right.
to it. The other thing about ALOA is you'll be able to take classes that are specifically designed to educate the student on the science of how you create biddings. I took a couple of years ago with just the most famous people no one has ever heard of. Lloyd Selver ran the master key department at Schlage for 20 years. He was one of my teachers, and he's a guy that I tapped his shoulder about 2 months ago and I needed help on something. He was happy to answer. So I've got an ALOA master keying specialist designation because I demonstrated proficiency on the way to create level 2, level 3, and above master key systems. Wow. And it's doing the work. Every locksmith is self-taught. I mean, we're all self-taught.
Right.
So to do key work on your own without having some classes is really tough because, we're all of average intelligence except the guys that are crazy smart. So we got to deal with being mortal, but then you expose your company and yourself to risk because of the unintentional cross-keying that can occur when you've got more than one shear line happening in a cylinder. So if you were to take those classes and learn how to defend against, I had a guy one time, the landlord handed out his master key to a tenant because he just needed to let them in their unit. Well, the guy comes home drunk the next night, goes into unit 2, retired police officer in there, hops up and shoots him dead, and realized he's the guy who came home drunk and he just walked up one too many flight of stairs. It was, so the point of the matter is this is the mechanical security of tumblers is really, really important. And there are people who make a living just as forensic experts in this industry in lawsuits. So I don't mean to, pull the alarm, but it would be really good, not only for comfort, but for security as well, for you to immerse yourself in as much technical education as you could because there's no other place to get it.
Correct.
Yeah. I remember a time that I unintentionally cross-keyed. I didn't understand shear lines, and I did a 12-unit building for a landlord, and every fourth door worked in the first one. And I don't know what was worse, his anger or my embarrassment, because it could have gone so much worse. Exactly.
But at least you caught it early, right?
Well, I didn't catch it. He caught it. He came back to me, and I was less agreeable to admitting a mistake, 30 years ago. So, and I got educated really fast what my error was. Right. And it's something that I've burned into my brain ever since. This was 30 years ago. Ever since, I've never made that mistake again.
Because whenever we took over, we handle, our company works for like 3 or 4 other companies that subcontract us to do their maintenance. And this one group has, on one road, we got 8 buildings that we take care of. Well, when we took it over from the other company, they gave us all these binders for each thing that had the whole bidding list. And at that time, I didn't know anything about a bidding list of what it was, what it does. And all those are Yale, a couple of them are Schlage. One's Schlage Everest, the other one's a regular Schlage, like Schlage E keyway and Schlage F keyway. And then the other ones are all Yale, like GB and SA, SB, SC. And I didn't know anything about that type of stuff. And all of a sudden they dumped all these books on me and they said, all right, it's y'all's, tag you're it. And I was like, so I just kind of started looking and started like YouTubing and Googling and this and that, trying to understand what I have in my hand. And then the property manager, she actually bought us a blitz to keep at one of our buildings, which I like using now because it's brand new, but I'm more mobile. I'm a traveling technician, so I can't just run over to that one building and go use the machine. So I use my stuff on the fly.
Yeah.
And but it's nice to be able to go into a workbench area and actually stop and breathe and think and all that instead of being outside in the elements. It's like I'm actually like 10 more minutes when my lunch is up. I'm getting ready to rekey a handful because of some employees left and they're worried about the security of their building.
Yeah.
So I'm fixing to do that. But yeah,
well,
so it's
the good thing about the Yale and the Corbin and the Schlage is you need the cutters, you need the blanks, you need the cards, and you're good. And ideally, you want to have a semi-automatic duplicator because all you want to use the blitz for is to originate. Make one.
correct.
Key it, combinate a cylinder, make sure your cuts are perfect, then duplicate them on the 044 or whatever you're using from Kaba Ilko or whoever's machine you have.
Right. Yeah, I've got a bigger machine and I got a small SpeedX that so if I got to cut like 2 or 3, I use my little SpeedX. But if I have to cut 10 or more, I got the one in the back that I fire with my little propane generator that because I don't have a big enough power inverter right now. And so it's got the lever where you lock it in and then you can use the lever to move them over to cut them, which I really like. And I think it's like I said, a semi-automatic. It's not motorized on like the feed, but it works great. And I bought it used. I got it for like $200.
Yeah.
And I got an awesome deal on it.
Yeah. And that's just all it is. The most important thing is to understand the science of how bidding lists are created. I would learn how to do level 2 systems very comfortably. I would learn total position progression. I would learn rotating constant. And once you had all that stuff that you could either refer to, and Aloha's website has books in it, and if you can get anything by So first of all, the Corbin manual, that's free. Corbin produces that for free. Right. There is you must own this book. You must buy it. And the guy's name is Jerome Andrews, and his book is called The Fundamentals of Master Keying. And when I was in that class with Lloyd from Schlage and with Ernie, who's got he's got a master's in mathematics, and he's a locksmith now. So imagine that combination.
Oh, God.
Oh, God is right. I mean, I asked Ernie about a trigonometry question about 2 months ago, about something I was working on for doors, and the trig was beyond my ability that I wanted to invest in. And he gave me back a dissertation on what I was doing. So anyway, I'm in this class over Zoom a couple of years ago with these guys, and Jerome Andrews, who's in his 80s, is sitting in on the class, and I swear it's like I had seen Luke Skywalker in 1977. I mean, it was such a fanboy moment. And I just thanked him and the whole class, at the end of the class, there's 20 of us. And I said, I'm sorry, I'd like to, is anyone here a published author? And like 3 people raised their hands. Well, Jerome Andrews, of course, is the one. I just said, sir, I wanted to thank you. Your book was the most important single book I've ever read on teaching me locksmithing. So you need that one. You need it. You need it. Then there's another one by Billy B. Edwards, but you only get into Billy Edwards' work, and he's still alive. Both those guys are still alive. You only get into Billy Edwards when you are really, really ready to go past Mr. Andrews' Fundamentals of Master Keying, which I'm sure you can buy on Amazon. I would prefer that you didn't buy it there because they're just ruining our industry, but buy it used. Abe Books would be if you can get a used copy of it, that'd be great. But that guy's the best, and he responds to emails as well. Oh, okay. Yeah. Fundamentals of Master Keying. It's going to liberate you. You're gonna have a new lease on your love for locksmithing.
Well, that's good because I need every tidbit of knowledge I can cram in whatever dry sponge brain I got left.
I hear you.
So. Well, that is some wonderful info to definitely food for thought on all of that because, like I said, I just need all the helping hands I can get because I really enjoy doing it, and I'm just trying to get it. And like I said, I've got my study guide to do to get my license, and I've got to do that here next few months. I got to find out when they're scheduled to have the next class or the exam, and I think it's not until end of November. I think is the next one. Last time I looked, because they only do it a couple times a year down here.
Yeah.
And so I got to just get my ducks in a row. 'Cause I don't test well, but once I get something, I'm golden. I'm like I said, I'm just more mechanically hands-on than I am like book smart type of deal. But
well, that's why Jerome's book is so awesome, because his bedside manner is like a hospice nurse, the most patient, kind, and gentle author that you'll ever read. It's just, I've got a library of locksmithing books about 6 foot wide, and his is the one that I've gone back to over and over again. Because
he knows where all the people have come from nothing to get into this type of business. So it's like kid gloves all the way up, sounds like.
He's also a pastor, so I think his personality, you would expect a pastor to have a really good bedside manner, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And his personality is like you're speaking to a pastor. It's just
wow,
just friendly, engaging, open, honest, bright-eyed, just awesome. Absolutely.
That sounds really good. So I'm gonna probably get on that this evening after work and find out where to get it. If I can get it locally here, if I need to order, like I said, from either him or a legit place, like you said. I mean, I use Amazon all the time, but yeah, I understand what you're talking about. It's kind of killing it from the people who's actually trying to make a living.
It is. So, yeah, I mean, I had a guy call me 2 weeks ago asking which pin kit to use. Yeah. And I told him which one I would use. It was between this one and this one, and I sent him a quote. And I spent 15 minutes with him on the phone talking about why I would use this pin kit. And he just wants to get into, playing around with locksmithing. And his response was, I found it on Amazon for less. And I thought to myself, man, I would have lied before I said that, because, you can guarantee you better not call that guy for tech support, because I won't be helping. You're better off telling me that you decided not to do it rather than say, I took all your knowledge and went to Amazon.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Amazon ain't always going to be there to give you the proper info. So.
Yeah.
Cool.
No one at Amazon knows anything about L4, that's for sure.
Exactly. Only people have got their elbow deep in it.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to get off lunch and get in here and get this rekey done. And like I said, I'll look at that email you sent me back and dig into that also.
You've got my number. Call anytime.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.